we don't need to be fighting over accusations that are not even true. Secondly, America is the big guy on the block. We are the biggest and we are the strongest. And with that responsibility means we have to make sure that we're not being heavy-handed in places where it's not necessary. I love that Dean brought up the North Korean reference where it is true. You know, we're consistently threatened. We're consistently mocked and jeered. There's constant threats of death to America. But are those actually realistic or, you know, beliefs that can be put into practice or come to fruition? A lot of the time, the answer to that is no. And so showing up to bomb Iran, especially without congressional approval, is a disastrous choice, and it sets a terrible precedent and is completely unnecessary, in my opinion, at this juncture. I think we have to start with what is true about what's happening in Iran, what is true about what's happening in the Middle East, and taking the incremental steps to seek diplomacy and resolution without being heavy-handed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on that point for you, Izzy. You had asked what the alternative to war is, and I think more specifically, and Denisha touched up on that a moment ago, we need to revive nuclear diplomacy with clear incentives. So what that looks like is we need to revive negotiations, either to revive or replace what was in place previously, which was the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the GCPOA. That provided a framework that initially addressed Iran's nuclear ambitions, the missile program, regional activities, et cetera, et cetera. What we can offer within that is phased sanctions reliefs tied to compliance. We can do things such as reducing enriched uranium stockpiles and other IAEA inspections. Further, I think there needs to be a call and push for support for internal reform and civil society. We need to amplify Iran's civil society. There's very clear growing dissent against the regime. We need to provide covert and indirect support for activists, independent media, reformist figures, et cetera, push for structural, political, and social change within that region. That is what the people are asking for. Further, economic engagement. We have to reduce tensions within that. We need to offer targeted economic incentives, such as access to things like global market investments, things like that, of which right now they don't have access to. And I think lastly, regional de-escalation and confidence building measures. So we can broker dialogues between Iran, Israel, and the Arab states in order to reduce risk of further escalation. And not bringing these countries to the table isolates them, puts them in a state of paranoia, puts it in a state in which it's sort of a he said, she said, they've got a bomb, they might have a bomb, they might bomb us kind of situation. If these parties are not at the table conversing with one another, then there's only such a great deal of secrecy that adds to this paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of troll on not to, I mean, everything that's been said is very accurate. The only other thing that I would say is we have to hold our leadership accountable, right? I mean, understanding that this action was taken without congressional approval is a huge deal, right? Mm-hmm. And for anything that we do as a country, I mean, our government is supposed to do what's best for the American citizens. And in this situation, it can be looked at as them doing what's best for Israel, right? Which, I mean, they've already called out the fact that Bibi Netanyahu has been saber rattling for a while, especially when it comes to Iran. And we need accountability for the people that we put in power and making sure that we don't just blatantly follow behind, one party or saying, I support this because this is who I voted for. At this time, we have to have accountability. We have to understand that there's a need for the leadership to do what's best for us, and we have to be the voices calling them out if they don't. And so this is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I know everything about the U.S. government because I took AP Gov this year. But
how old are you?
It's more than Republicans.
I'm 18. I literally turned 18 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But I remember it was weird because we literally had this discussion and I wrote an essay on whether it's constitutional or not if during a time of war or time of conflict for a president to launch an airstrike. And I remember arguing against it, that it was unconstitutional. So it's just weird how this is all coming into place. But anyways, I just want to say thank you for answering my question. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to let someone else hop in.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening. As well as we're just getting word of yet another new post by Donald J. Trump on Truth Social.
Oh, Lord.
Saying,
should I read it in his voice?
Oh, yeah. And it's all caps, Jaden.
Trump. Of course it is. Like, what the hell kind of... it's like that movie The Shining, the way he types. Let's see what he says here. Oh, Lord. Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Okay.
I'm a little shocked.
It was deranged.
So
Can
that's
he not, like, put the caps shit on all the time?
Yeah, the cap shit makes him look crazy, but
It does. It's unhinged.
Anyways, so this is dangerous, guys. Iran has made a promise to retaliate, and Trump has made a promise if they retaliate, we'll hit them harder. So
It's just unfortunate because this is repetitive. This is the thing that we should be smarter than. This is the thing we should be beating. We've lived through this.
No, this is not the language of a de-escalation tactic.
No. I mean, the constant escalation, the back and forth, I mean, at some point, diplomacy has to take place. And the issue that we have is that we don't have a diplomatic leader.
What he's going for here is the threaten to wipe them off the face of the planet so they have to roll over on their belly and give up. That's what he's going for, is bringing the fist down hard and quick to get them to roll over. I don't know if it's going to work. But we'll go ahead and take one more question, and then I am going to be off for the night. So let's go ahead and get one more guest up here before I'm off for the night. And just
I must say, this news was rather disorienting, personally. I woke up from a nap, and I thought that this was fake. I thought I was still dreaming when I saw this, but everyone in my messages was saying we struck Iran, and it only continued with this bullshit press conference today. Well, not conference, but speech.
Yeah, I was live when the news hit. It was dystopian, man. I just wasn't expecting it. Even though I was expecting it, I wasn't expecting it. It was one of those scenarios. But we're gonna go ahead and let one more person up for one more question for the panel. So
I'll tell you what.
What's that?
This is the second night in a row my live has been interrupted by something. Like literally, oh man.
What was it?
It shook my life. So yeah. That was awesome.
I know, man. Well, let's get that last guest up here. We got Exact Beats loading into the stream. Welcome in, Exact Beats. Do you have a question for the panel?
Oh, that Santana. Yeah.
Hey guys. So I just, I don't know. I was born in 1979, right when the revolution happened, and I know I'm from Los Angeles, so I know a lot of Iranians, and I wonder, what we really know about this country. We just pretty much took out their entire, war fighting capabilities. And, we don't, I don't know. I worry about what's going to happen here in the U.S. soil. I wonder what, it's really, Ted Cruz didn't know that Iran had almost 100 million people.
Right.
He didn't care. And I actually think I'm pretty conservative. I'm just scared. Did Trump do any fighting like this in his last term?
No, and I think we can draw reference on when he struck General Soleimani and the attacks that came down on U.S. troops, of which he dismissed legitimate brain injuries and head injuries as mere headaches. So they've indicated a desire to strike U.S. troops, civilians, citizens that are currently residing in Israel and in the Middle East. This does not spell a good situation for the U.S. military or for our leadership.
One more question for military guys. Do you think Iran has direct energy weapons that are not nuclear based, but maybe of a different origin that they could use to retaliate? Because they mentioned they have stuff that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And that's what they would use against an Israeli or an American target?
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't know about specifically what they have, but they are using a unique strategy as far as the way that they're actually going about bombing, with an overhaul of missiles where they're shooting off. I think they said like 180 to 190 in a short amount of time, and then they're switching the type of missiles to have more highly precise hypersonic missiles. So they're being really strategic as far as how they're going about it. The one thing I will tell you is I have a lot of friends and family that are in different parts of the military, and I've been in contact with them even before this and now. And the confidence that they have as far as leadership, it's not great. And even more so, the understanding as far as where we are right now. There's a lot of emphasis being put on preparing for what comes next. So I'm really, that's why I keep saying like diplomacy is needed. Attention and making sure that we hold our leaders accountable. It's needed because there is a sense of like, this isn't it. And I know Trump said like, oh, there must be peace now, but this feels more like a start than a finish.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I think that's what is the most telling and worrying to me. It isn't direct combat. I think America is suited for that. It's just not something that we should ever want to have to do. I think what worries me is that these types of things are typically proxy wars and a lot more insidious. And when the rhetoric starts of, oh, well, so-and-so has weapons and you need to show up for this and you need to fund this. And again, we've seen this before. We saw it in 2001. We saw where the rhetoric led us. We saw how attacks were on American soil. It starts to be a very insidious thing. And that's what worries me for people's lives, because people end up dying who do not need to be dying for foreign interests or unjust interests in unjust causes.
Absolutely.
I was going to say one more thing to your point about, or somebody's point about coming in there and like appealing to the people and trying to win the hearts and minds of the Iranians. And I just think this is much different than Iraq. You know, we tried to do that with Iraq and we were actually kind of successful in at least preventing, you know, a major like government from establishing itself there. But like, what if something happened where we bombed one of their mosques by accident? I mean, errant missiles and you know, these guys are going to be scared flying into this country. They've done a lot of simulations, but they've never actually flown over and engaged in these sorties on a large scale. What if one of their major religious installations gets destroyed? What happens to the hearts and mind argument? I think that goes right down the toilet.
I don't think there is a strong hearts and mind argument. I think to some degree, civilians in any country understand that the people are not necessarily reflective of their government and its decisions. Mm-hmm. But I think there are decades, if not centuries, of distrust and discord amongst the civilians of any nation, be it America or Iran or anywhere else, justifiably so, because our government and their government have not treated each other well and have engaged in horrific actions. I don't know if, I think you're correct about there being a difference in terms of this isn't, you know, years ago where the argument could be made of, well, let's just try to convince everyone to like each other again.
Yeah, I have Jordanian friends that are, their kids come over here all the time, and they always have strict prayer routines and things they can and can't do. There is a hard line cultural divide. And it's all fun and games when they're playing roadblocks and whatnot. But when it comes to other things, we don't even go there. Like, I wouldn't even recommend things like Mother's Day and Father's Day was a little bit of an awkward thing. I don't even try to mess with it. And they don't mess, honestly, with my culture either. They never try to recruit my kids into any type of Islamic teaching, or they don't want you to be a part of their culture unless you want to. So it's a fundamentally different culture. You know, the husband's a doctor, the wife's a traditional Jordanian housewife, and for all extensive purposes, I don't know what that entails, but, you know, I've never seen what she looks like, and I respect their family. They have 6 kids, and we live a peaceful American life. I worry about, you know, a lot of assumptions being made with guys with military egos and Trump in their ear, and what this is going to eventually lead to.
The last thing that I'll say is in a time like this, I worry about Pete Hegseth, right? having
Hennessy Hexath.
Yeah, having someone like that that's ill-equipped to actually handle the moment, let alone talking about Donald Trump and his leadership skills. But when you take someone who doesn't have a true history of leadership, and someone who has a track record of rising to the moment, then it becomes more of a risk, right? It becomes a situation where we have the capability to not only defend ourselves and our allies, but without proper leadership, like what happens? And so, like, I don't know where we go with that, or what type of repercussions comes from having him in place.
That's a good point, Santana, and it certainly warrants a great deal of concern that just, I think it was 2 days ago or so, on Air Force One, the President of the United States decried what his own Secretary of Intelligence stated as it relates to Iran and their nuclear capabilities. If you cannot trust the person you hired for the job in delivering intelligence to your departments, then who can we trust? Who is he getting the message from, if not directly from Netanyahu?
Absolutely.
So that's a grave concern to me.
It seems like the only person that Trump truly trusts is Netanyahu. But guys, I am going to go ahead and end the panel at this time and end the live for the evening. I have been on all day.
Can I say one quick thing?
Of course.
Just about tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, guys. One, if you're not following me, follow this account. This is the main account now. So give me a follow. But tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, if you're interested, I am having a special brunch with my creator, Juneteenth edition. There'll be multiple Black creators that are joining me to actually talk about Juneteenth, the historical nature of it, the space of Black Americans, and also Black excellence. So it'll be a really good panel discussion. So if you're available, join tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I really appreciate all three of you guys for joining. And then before we end the live, after the panel leaves, I'm going to throw an image up, and I'm going to give you guys some next steps. But all three of you guys, I really appreciate you so much for coming up tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me, Dean.
Appreciate you guys.
See you, Santana, Denisha.
Take care, take care. All right, everybody. So I am going to go ahead and end the live streams both on TikTok and YouTube for the evening. I am exhausted. I've been working all day long. We did a 4-hour stream earlier, a couple videos, another hour stream tonight.